What's up, everybody? Welcome back to On the Fly. Today, we're kicking off the first of a few series of what we're doing is interviewing the founders of the Financial Literacy Institute. So we're going to go through kind of the story of myself, Zach, and Yinka, and kind of help you all understand where we started, how we got into financial education, and where our passion for financial literacy came from. And we're also proud to welcome Josh Bassesi to the On the Fly podcast. Josh is one of our university ambassadors from the University of Akron. And we're going to start cycling him into the podcast, maybe have him even host a few shows here and there. But I want to welcome Josh, I want to welcome Zach, and I want to welcome Yinka. Are you guys having a great week and ready for a great episode today?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, thanks for the welcome. I'm excited to start.
Yep, for sure. Having a good week and looking to continue it. Thanks, Sean.
Absolutely. So today we're going to kind of dive deep into Zach's story. Really, Zach has been someone I've been very good friends with for the past about 5 years. And I met Zach my freshman year of school at Akron in engineering in one of our tools for engineering classes. And we got put together in a project. We were doing, I believe, mousetrap cars.
Yep.
And basically what became kind of a terrible project. And I mean, we got an A on it, but I think everybody got an A. So ours was probably a pity A. But we started working on the project together. Then we started playing basketball together, lifting, and then from there, we've been best friends since. So it's my pleasure to host this episode and also kind of dive deep into Zach's story. So before we kind of kick it off here, Zach, do you want to give a little bit of an overview of yourself, a little bit more than we've covered in previous episodes, and kind of start how you got into financial education and your passion for finance?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Sean. So I got into finances a little later in life than I wish I would have, right? I guess as everyone does. And I kind of want to get into how, when, and where I got into finances to hopefully share that with any listeners and maybe motivate them and inspire them to get that fire and drive that I now have maybe a little earlier in life, right? So yeah, I like Sean said, I'm a mechanical engineer, graduated from the University of Akron. As of now, since I've graduated college and moved down to Columbus, Ohio, starting a full-time career, I've been headfirst into financial literacy, all aspects of it, budgeting, right? Looking to get into real estate. I just looked at a house today. It is one to own for my hopefully own for my future fiance and I. And then after that, looking to get into a little more of the real estate game, buying, renting, maybe some flipping as well. So yeah, that's a little summary. I don't know if you guys maybe had some questions you want to kick off, or I can just kind of dive in myself.
Yeah, no, I mean it's awesome that Sean is hosting because again, your guys' friendship runs so deep. But maybe me being a person who doesn't know you as much as Sean does, I might have a little more questions for you. But maybe more personal questions like, what's Zach all about? What are your hobbies? What do you tap into outside of Financial Literacy Institute, outside of Honda? What is Zach all about? Because I believe that like hobbies, you can tell a lot about a person by their hobbies, So talk to me. What is Zach all about?
So the biggest singular hobby I have is golf, right? I've been into golf ever since I could walk, and I play too much of it. And being into golf, you kind of have to be good with finances, right? Because golf is one of the most expensive sports you can play. My grandpa, who taught me how to golf, one of the couple of people who taught me how to golf, always said that I have a champagne taste on a beer budget, which is very true. So wanting to kind of supplement the lifestyle I want has also fueled, wanting to get into finances, become financially independent, financially comfortable. So golf's a big one for me. Fitness, ever since I was small, I was always playing sports, and fitness kind of came pretty naturally to me. I never had to go try to work out, set a schedule. I always had to go to practice as a kid, all the way up through high school and even a little bit of college, just, playing intramurals, doing whatever your friends are doing, got me the exercise and, the fitness I needed. Since graduating college, I've had to put a little more effort into, or, since getting into college and graduating, put a little more effort into creating that schedule, right? Creating that routine. And like Sean said, that's one thing we did when we were, kind of getting closer and becoming friends in college was lifting. And he got me into kind of a good schedule, got me some agendas, weekly agendas, and twice a week. I remember we get up at like 7 o'clock and meet at his house in the morning to lift. And for a college student, twice a week, 7 a.m. Wow, that was like 5 a.m. Man, that was tough. But it teaches good discipline. And like I've always said, your health and your friends are two of the biggest investments you have, in yourself. If you achieve the financial goals you want, and you have all the money in the world, 99% of people, want to do things with that money that involves their health and their friends. Most things you do involve your health or your friends. Without those, there's not a lot you can do in this world, no matter how much money you have. So golf's a big one I've been into. Fitness, trying to fit into my wedding dress this coming November as well is good inspiration for that as well. I'm trying to think of something else, but actually, so yeah, lately, another thing, I love to learn new things, boxing, right? Trying to get into a little bit hitting the bag. I'm not getting myself in the way of any punches yet. Just kind of learning to hit a bag, but learning new things. And boxing was one thing that combined fitness, a new challenge, and kind of setting a schedule. So that was kind of a no-brainer for me. I joined a gym, and for a couple of weeks, almost a month now, I've been going consistently, and it kicks my butt every time. But I love it.
Absolutely. Health is wealth. And that's why you see like people like Tom Brady or LeBron who spend millions of dollars a year on their nutrition, on their fitness. They have coaches, they have people that they pay lots of money to make sure that they are in the best shape. But another thing I kind of want to touch on too is, and this reminded me when you're talking about golf, of a conversation we had probably a year ago when you were wanting to get a side hustle. Once you started working at Honda, you're like, okay, I want to find something else to make money, because this was on our conversation of you can either do two things to like increase your wealth, either make more money or spend less.
Mhm.
And we had a conversation about how monetizing your hobbies allows you kind of to do stuff that you're already doing, but then find a way to scale it and start to make some money off it. So can you
Mhm.
kind of dive into what you've done to monetize your hobbies?
Yeah, great question. So that's one thing I kind of left out of my hobbies, is I've been getting into coaching golf. So throughout my journey of golfing my entire life, I've taken some lessons, kind of become pretty familiar with the mechanics and knowledge of the golf swing and kind of what you should do on a fundamental and sometimes even kind of physics-based level. And what I didn't realize, I've learned this so gradually and so slowly. I didn't realize, kind of the level of knowledge I have in that area, right? And so I created a flyer. I got approved at the nearest golf range for me to coach there. And I've got a couple of hits, and I've given probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 lessons since. So I have a couple students. I have a nice little app called Coach Now. I can set up a space for each student. I can give online lessons there. I can post videos from our in-person lessons to kind of recap. And because I love golf, I can set up there outside, with someone, talking to them, talking about their swing, and it's not work for me at all, right? I love kind of teaching people, helping people, and being able to combine all of that into the sport of golf is phenomenal. And so that's one way I've been able to, kind of focus my hobby into something that can aid me financially as well.
Yeah, that's great advice, Zach, and from you, Sean, too, because I know Sean and I actually talked about this a little too. It was sort of that same conversation, monetize your hobbies. And my thing is soccer. I know that's Yinka's thing too. And I'm looking to start a side hustle right now. But more generally, just for the folks listening to this, that would be perfect for them to hear. That monetize your hobbies phrase
Mm-hmm.
is so impactful for so many of us.
Yeah, that's a
But
great point.
you have a lot on your schedule and you talk
Mm-hmm.
about managing your time. Can
Mm-hmm.
you dive deeper into how exactly you manage your time, what systems you might use, something like that?
Yeah, that's a great kind of segue into one that I kind of wanted to wrap this into. So while you're monetizing your hobbies and trying to find other ways, right, to up your income and up your finances, you probably will have a lot of ideas, right? I had a ton. And so a good term I like to use for this is analysis paralysis, right? So what this means, if you have a lot of ideas, a lot of things you're trying to do, you'll end up just thinking about them and not actually doing them, right? There's 3 steps to completing a task. These were brought to us by our previous guest, Ryan Barker. I can't remember the exact words of them, but it was essentially, come up with the idea, do it, and then, revise it, right? And so the middle step is the one we skip a lot, right? The actually doing it. A lot of us, especially being engineers or anyone.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Execution. You'll have an idea. Many people do. And then we try to revise it and improve it in our heads without actually doing it first. And we get into this vicious cycle of, just trying to improve our ideas without actually doing them. So, actually just throwing myself in there and doing it was one of the was golf, right? That was the first thing I kind of said, okay, even if I feel unprepared or a little bit like I'm just stepping into the abyss, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to learn as I go. I'm going to fall on my face and just find a way through it. So that was one thing. I started that in probably a few days, right? I just made a flyer on Microsoft Word, printed it off, stuck it up at some golf courses, and got a hit and went out there and acted like I knew what I was doing, right? And it went well. So to tie that in to Josh's question about how I manage my time, one, you do have to have a little bit of that mentality where you just have to do things, right? Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of your time in your analysis paralysis, just kind of thinking about what you want to do and revising it and not actually going out there, doing it, learning from your mistakes, and advancing faster. You're going to improve or achieve your goal faster by, doing the first thing you think of, failing, and then revising based off of that. Making a bunch of revisions in your head without doing anything is going to lead you on a much slower path. But secondly, getting into more of the specifics of, how you can manage your time. The steps I've taken was using a calendar, like I use Google Calendar, and I go for the next couple of days in a row and will block off my day hour by hour, minute by minute, because then I know I have a schedule I can look at and what I can use. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll have just a Post-it note with, 8 things on it, and that's a very common method that people use for, a to-do list for today. I'll have 8 things on here. And when I started judging my tasks not by whether or not I get them done, but by did I commit the amount of time to them I said I would. And with that method, I am 900% more productive than just trying to complete tasks on a list. I don't know if that just works for me or it might work for everyone else. That was something I looked up and did research on because I noticed I wasn't being as productive as I wanted to be. So I looked up different methods for time organization, and I found that, and that has worked fantastic for me. If I block off an hour for a task, I almost am more productive. I have more motivation. So, okay, I got to get this done in an hour. It's on my calendar for an hour. At 2:00, I got to move on to X task. So, kind of using a calendar, blocking off my tasks daily, hour by hour, has really helped my productivity and my organization.
I agree on the blocking off too. I would do that in school for homework. I'd say, okay, I have 30 minutes or 45 minutes to do this assignment. And I know if I don't finish it in 45 minutes, then I have to move on to something else. And me wanting to cross the thing off my list, I'm like, I'm getting it done in 30 or 45 minutes, whether I like it or not. And then the other key thing I wanted to kind of recycle there is the analysis paralysis. And that honestly has been one of had the biggest impact on my life altogether, because I used to have an opportunity come up and I could spend days thinking about it and tell myself I just need to sleep on it. But that's literally the worst thing that I could have done, because every time I slept on it, I didn't do it. Now, especially like when I'm evaluating like real estate deals or business opportunities, I give myself 30 minutes to think about it, run numbers, and if the numbers check out, and if I feel good about it in that moment, I say, yes, let's do it. And I commit to it. And basically, I don't give myself an opportunity to back out of it. So the more time you give yourself to think about it and sleep on it and all that, it's only going to lead to you doing the safe option. And the safe option doesn't always lead to the biggest and best result. So I agree 100%, Zach.
And that is exactly why Sean's under contract for like his third house in 3 months.
Yeah, no, 100%. The theme here is execution, guys. For our listeners, execute, execute,
Execution.
execute. 100%. And, I can relate to everything you're saying, especially with my notes and calendar system. Execution, because they're in there and they're time sensitive and they get done 100%. I would love now to even now pivot into that kind of financial story, right? Because I know when I'm gonna, speak on my story next week, and Sean after that, you know, Zach, with you, with your financial story, I know with mine, was there a catalyst for you that's like, okay, now I got to get serious about my finances, whether it's something bad, whether it's something great, whatever that was to you? What was the catalyst in your life that really was like, you know what, I needed to be seriously tapping into my finances? Because again, school doesn't teach us this. That's exactly
Right.
our motto. We're teaching the financial literacy skills that school should have taught us. So because that wasn't taught to you, when was the time in your life where you needed to buckle down and teach yourself?
Great question. So my goal here, right, is to kind of give the listeners something to relate to, So if you're listening to this, it's a lot easier and can give you that much more motivation or hope that something is achievable if you know that someone has done it before you, right? And so what kind of drove me to become very financially literate and buckle down and get my finances in check was graduation, getting a job, right? Like I said, I kind of got into finances and being really financially literate later in life that I wanted to, which was about college graduation. Before then, I always had the drive to make money. You can ask my now fiance. We were dating back then, and I would constantly bug her, like, I have free time now. I feel like I need to be making money with this. I need a project or something. And I didn't have kind of that thing to put my time into that was profitable. I just didn't have it yet. So I'd constantly bug her then. So even if you don't have that thing now, um, profit. What's the word I'm looking for? Make your hobbies profitable, right? Look into maybe things you like or things you don't like. So kind of getting off a little divergent here. Amazon FBA was another thing I'm getting into for trying to up my profits and up my income, right? And with that, that's kind of a different route than doing something you like. With Amazon FBA, I'm looking into coffee products. I don't drink coffee, right? You have to kind of distance yourself from the things you like and their so-called passion projects and just look at things that are profitable, right? Millions of people like coffee. Coffee is one of the most biggest businesses in the world, right? I don't know, multi-billion dollars or something like that. Don't fact check me. But anyway, nice little segue there into our future one-on-one coaching mentoring options. Amazon FBA is going to be one of my areas of expertise. So if you're looking to get into Amazon FBA and make some money with a few clicks on your computer, just send products from a supplier to Amazon and get a cute little Prime logo, buy your product, go to our website, thefli.net, and go to our one-on-one mentoring mastermind programs. We'll have a plan listed out there with all the details that you can get into with that plan. So Inka's question
little
was,
teaser. I like the
yeah,
little teaser plug.
exactly. So Inka's question was, what was the catalyst? What really made me buckle down and figure out my finances? And that was my offer letter from Honda, right? So I got an offer letter and I had X amount of thousand I was going to make a year. And that was really the catalyst that said, hey, money is finite. This is how much you get. Make it work, right? You got to put some of this aside for savings. You got to spend some of this on gas and food. And in college, my money was for gas, food, and rent. That was about all I needed. If gas, food, and rent went by and my account balance was zero after that, that didn't matter. I had nothing else to spend money on. So if I needed to make money, I would, pick up another shift at the odd job I worked. But having a full-time job with a finite salary really solidified to me, hey, I have to, one, make this amount of money that I have work for me, and two, make more. Because after running the numbers, before I got into my job and started, I took that salary amount and ran it a bunch of times into a budget, right? And I was saying, wow, this money goes fast. There's so many places this money has to go. I don't have as much money to play with at the end of the day that I thought I would. So what really got me into looking for kind of that side hustle, that secondary, tertiary income, was accepting that first job offer, seeing a finite amount of cash, and realizing I have to make this work for me or make more money somehow.
And a big thing that a lot of people don't realize, like with that offer letter, whether it's a yearly salary amount or like an hourly rate,
Mm-hmm.
is that that's your total like income, but your net income takes taxes out, and taxes
Yes.
take a lot out. So if you base, your living off of an $80,000 total salary, really, you're probably going to get somewhere in the 55 to 60,000 range, which is 25,000 off. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a big difference between what you see on paper versus what actually hits your account. And I
Exactly.
think that's something that we'll dive deeper into in a future podcast episode, and even some videos on Instagram. But it's taxes are a pain. We don't like taxes. We don't want to pay taxes, but there's ways that you can legally get around it, but with a W-2 income, not necessarily as much. So just a shameless plug there for my hatred of taxes.
No, I love that. And something that really stood out to me, Zach, was that you got your offer letter for how much you're going to make per year, right? And you're very interesting, and I think all of us on this podcast would do the exact same thing you would. But for a lot of people, they see that number, it's like, oh, what can I buy first?
Mm-hmm.
But your mindset was, oh, I can live off this. And perhaps I know you didn't really talk about it that much, but perhaps you had the mindset of, okay, now I can also invest, or I can start another business, which you didn't really talk about, your 3D printing business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Other things like that. You saw opportunities with that money that wasn't necessarily consumer based, right? So let's talk about that. Like, what was that mindset? Maybe where did it start? How was it built? That when it came to that catalyst moment, you didn't make the decision of, oh, what's the newest car I can buy? Or how
Mm-hmm.
can I up my living? Or now I need to buy the newest PS12, things like that. What was that mindset for you that when that catalyst came, you made a really good decision with that money?
That's a great question. So it kind of wraps around to our abundance versus fixed mindset, right? We've talked about this before, where an abundance mindset, you don't take criticisms too personally with, versus, you'll build upon criticism. Constructive criticism is something that you accept, you don't take it personally, and you build on it. Kind of the same thing will apply with money, in these mindsets. With a fixed mindset, you look at the money you have, and you want to spend it. It's money that's yours to spend, right? An abundance mindset says, there's a lot more money out there to be made, and kind of where I originated, kind of this mindset and the discipline, I guess, was no from a lot of sources, right? Not only from my grandparents, my parents, and kind of playing sports as well, throughout my high school years. I had a couple coaches, where as a lot of people do, who are pretty hard on you, and you have to learn to take the discipline and to take, maybe some yelling and screaming the right way, or else you're not going to make it. You're gonna quit the team. You're gonna get a new credit card, and you're gonna go say, I have a $15,000 credit limit. I'm gonna go spend this, right? And that's not what you want to do, especially with a credit card. So learning the discipline and learning the self-control to look past kind of the materialistic face value of, however big a sum of, dollars might be, and to look into, say, okay, if this is $80,000, 20,000 is going to come out in taxes. I want to save another 10,000 of it into my 401k. I have an IRA, so I want to put another 6,000 into there. That money goes really fast, right? I got to pay rent. I got to pay, buy food. All of a sudden, when you get into the details and you use your discipline to kind of look into that and get past the shock value of, oh my gosh, 60, 70, $80,000, you can get into the weeds of, wow, this car payment would be a lot better if it was $50 a month instead of 450, right? So I'm in a lot more money to go golf, or, use that extra bit of cash I'm saving to start a business, maybe start 3D printing business, whatever you're getting into. With the in whatever business you get into, you are not 99% of the time not going to have the first business or idea you have is not going to take off, right? 3D printing was one of the first that I got into. And while I still do it and I still love it, it is not going to be for anyone, an incredibly profitable business. And these are just kind of the things you have to learn by diving into what you like to do and what you want to do, right? I learned that 3D printing is phenomenal for prototyping, phenomenal for personal use, for small batch orders, but mass production is not the way to go, right? So I've had a a couple orders come in for large quantities of parts, and after days and days of printing, I'm saying, holy cow, this is not the most convenient thing or not the most efficient thing. And while it is profitable, these are just the things you learn, right? And so that's kind of the benefit of diving into the things you want to do. And now via getting into 3D printing, I have 3D printers I can use for small projects for others and myself, right? And I love it. And my fiance is too. I'm doing constant little, weird, obscure things around the house that help and help us both out. And that was kind of another segue I was going to get into. So Sean and I listened to the financial. What is that, Sean? What's the
personal finance podcast?
Personal finance podcast. I always get the name wrong.
Yep.
Sean pointed me towards that episode. I said, hey, this guy is 3D printing houses, right? And he said, take a look at this. This is pretty cool. And so because I had used my discipline and the extra money I had set aside from my budgeting to get into 3D printing, even though that didn't exactly take off, it kind of opened the door for me in another area where I'm looking into, this 3D printing houses thing. And while this sounds crazy and it's a little bit far-fetched, the guy who has already gotten into this on this interview on this podcast that Sean mentioned, he said, if you want to get into this, you need to know these three things. And I said, holy cow, I know those three things. I learned those years ago via getting into 3D printing. And so that's kind of another avenue in this kind of spider web of ideas I have that I'm, going down and going to investigate in the future. So while you might have an offer letter or saying X amount of salary or X amount of hourly wage that is shocking, or maybe you get a new credit card and your credit limit's crazy. Don't take the face value and go crazy with it, right? Use your discipline, dive into the weeds, figure out, okay, I need to spend this much on this with my salary, and figure out how much you actually have left over. And once that number is so small and finite, whatever you want to do with it is what you want to do with it. But when that number is small enough, you're going to say, wow, I might not want to blow this on, a new car. I might want to use this for something that can, make more money in the future.
Right. Really quickly, it just sounds like the theme there was discipline. And why I want to say that is that I feel like, especially for that catalyst, which we all have, one needs to be prepared for that moment, and you were prepared. Not everybody has that kind of mindset where they see the salary or they see the credit card or they see the hourly wage, and they're not ready to try to handle that money. But at that point of your catalyst, you were ready because everything you experienced in the past, be it the sports, be it the letdowns, be it the achievements, whatever have you, everything that you experienced before that catalyst, once that happened, I know I'm going to be disciplined with that money because I gained the discipline from that, past experience, which not everybody has because they have to, go through those kinds of things, right? But some people get to that. It won't necessarily be the catalyst, but some people get to those catalytic moments and they're not yet ready, and now they blow the money or they go into debt or they make wrong choices because they weren't prepared. But it sounds like you were for that catalyst. That's
exactly. Cool. And a big part of that, and to maybe something I might say to someone who doesn't quite have that discipline or that mindset yet, the first step could very well be accepting that the level of success you have isn't based on, your luck or situation or, your drive or how much, maybe not how bad you want it, right? If I want a 6-pack and you want a six, every guy in the world wants a 6-pack. Every guy in the world wants a 6-pack as bad as the next guy, right? It's not the desire to have a 6-pack that's different. It's the discipline. It's the going to the gym when you don't want to, right? So kind of realizing that and accepting that was a big part of my mindset change, right? It was kind of, realizing there's no magical kind of thing that someone else has that I don't, right? It's all just the discipline of it. It's all just the getting over the instant gratification, right? Of, I don't know, eating half a tub of ice cream before bed just because you're hungry, or, and then like Yinka uses the parallel of video games a lot. And this is something that has helped me so much from Yinka. I didn't really think about this before Yinka had brought it up. Using the parallel of video games, right? If say you're playing, I know Skyrim's a big, single player game where you customize your character a lot. I don't know it. I've never really played it, but I know that's kind of the gist of it. If you had a character and you were playing this game and your character, their hunger bar went down, right? Or, that said they were hungry. Are you going to go up to the store, wherever you get food in a video game? Are you going to choose, like a birthday cake, which grants you the stats of like more happiness and way less charisma or physical attractiveness? Or are you going to get like pulled pork, which gives you like a little less happiness and way more physical, like, charismatic or charisma and, attractiveness? When you think about it like that, it's like, why would I use, you're never going to do that video game. You're never going to go up and, order the cake or something that's going to give you less stats that you care about. But because we don't have kind of that third person mentality a lot of the time, we are the ones that go for the birthday cake, that go for, the cheesecake and the cookies because it makes us happy instantly. It's a lot of that instant gratification. But if you sit back, and I do this all the time, pretend like I'm coaching myself in a video game, I'm like, why would I go eat this? That's going to make me feel horrible after I eat it and make me look worse too, right? I'm going to go eat my pulled pork and chicken and rice and beans and be happy about it because it's just the better choice.
I feel like
I
these
love,
video game analogies just continue to hit the nail on the head. Like, oh
They
my
do.
goodness.
They do. And two things I want to say in that, right? Because you're so right. Even back in the day when I played Wizard 101, right? Am I going to get more satisfaction from slaying, what was the purple guy? He was the Kraken. The Kraken. You guys remember that? Have you guys played Wizard 101?
I never played that game, no.
Oh, what a game. Would you get more satisfaction from slaying a Kraken, which took so much more experience to get to that level and actually be able to slay, or you get satisfaction from slaying a pixie, which probably takes, it does take a little bit, less experience and isn't as, satisfying. Nonetheless, kind of that instant gratification isn't going to be as satisfying because you're not putting as much work juxtaposed to that delayed gratification. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I'm glad you brought up another video game analogy because one of our TikTok videos is almost at over 150K, almost at 200K. So that's definitely a clip we're going to clip and use hashtag video games. I bet that was probably the hashtag that brought it up. But nonetheless, all jokes aside, that is a great point. It's really all about that discipline that was able to get Zach ready for that catalytic moment. That's beautiful.
And the other thing too is like, you think about on the video game analogy, like you can't slay the most difficult character in the game right off the bat. Like you have to work your way up there. So whether you're working on a side hustle or you're trying to start a business, you're not going to like knock it out of the park on day one. You're going to try things that aren't going to work. You're going to fail. You're going to have business ideas that aren't going to make any money whatsoever. We've all been there. So you can't get discouraged when something doesn't go the way that you want it. Like Zach said, he's had projects that haven't worked out the way he wanted. I've done it. Yinka, you've done it. And Josh, you're going to experience it. But, what you learn from those failures is so much better than what that success could teach you. And Michael Jordan says all the time, he's learned more from the losses. He's learned more from the missed shots than he ever did from the wins. Like that's kind of the mindset that you have to embody yourself. And kind of touching on what Zach said about the 3D printing, when you have something you're working on, there's always going to be opportunities to pivot. And you may have your plan of, okay, I want to start this business and I want to go this way, this way, this way. This is my 10-year goal, my 5-year goal, my 1-year goal. This is how I see everything going. But in most cases, it doesn't work out that way. You could have a plan you want to open up a storefront, but then you realize selling on the internet has a lower overhead, higher profits, and it's simpler. That's somewhere that you pivot. You may start a 3D printing business and it can give you the tools to understand how to start 3D printing houses. And then you think like, my reason for sending that to Zach was I knew that Zach was into 3D printing. I love real estate. I then see it as a way that we can work together to make a lot of money and build a business. So the other thing I want to touch on is your network and your close group of friends are going to be huge for helping you source ideas, find ways that you can work together, because you can do a lot on your own, but you can do even more when you're in a group. And that's one of the biggest things that Hafiz hammered in during his episode, and Yinka talks about all the time from his involvement in the Standard. So I just wanted to plug that in there because I felt like it was a perfect opportunity to do so.
Yeah, perfect. And
a
one thing,
piggyback
really
plug.
quick, I'm going to interject
go
here
ahead,
while
go
this
ahead.
is still fresh out of Sean's mouth.
Let's do it.
The themes kind of this episode and of my kind of story here are discipline and failure, right? Learning to fail is huge. Like Sean said, you're going to fail. I have 3 or 4 or 5 different small little business ideas that I've tried to get into, and have half worked, half failed. Failure is key. Like he said, Michael Jordan learns more from his losses than he does his wins and successes. And this is something I kind of did with my friends at bars, even, right? You always go out to bars with your friends in college, and we're trying to talk to girls, pick up girls, and you can tell, like, we're obviously everyone's intimidated by trying to go talk to a girl, and you're gonna get rejected. Oh, and I say your goal tonight is not to pick up a girl. Your goal is to get rejected by 5. Or whoever gets rejected by 5 first wins or something, right? And so, expecting failure and striving for failure, knowing you're going to fail and learning more from it and having that abundant mindset, understanding that the failure is a part of the process, you're going to learn a lot more from it. And that success at first likely isn't going to happen, versus the fixed mindset of, oh, that failure is a reflection of me, my personality, my skill level. It looks bad at me, upon me. That's not true. We got to have that abundant mindset. We got to have discipline, and we got to know we're going to fail.
Yeah, and that's so beautiful, because I can attest to that 100,000%. The reason why I'm so charismatic is because I failed so much. And why I'm saying that is it took me a lot of time. I'm not saying I was super shy when I was young, but what I'm saying is, for me to get to my charismatic level that I am now, it took me a lot of failures socially for me to get to this level. And that's okay. That's part of the process. That's part of the journey. That's just okay. So for our listeners out there, if you're not there at any level, whether in any aspect, socially, financially, anything, career-wise, doesn't matter. Failure is part of the process. And I love to say that failure, Mr. Failure, and I think Mrs. Disappointment are the best teachers out of all the teachers you'll ever encounter in school or online. Doesn't matter. Mr. Failures and Mrs. Disappointment, 100%. Number 2, let's go back to that community. I just want to have another quick plug. For our community, FLI community, we have that Discord. So make sure for all of our listeners, tap into our Discords all over our Instagram. Josh is an amazing, ambassador of our Discord. And he's lighting up in there. I love that. But just like Sean said, community is everything. You cannot do this alone. And obviously, Zach isn't doing this alone with his journey. So make sure you tap into our Discord. Just a little plug there.
Absolutely. I agree completely. And I would say too, Zach, kind of as we wrap up a little bit here, I guess looking into, the next year, you mentioned, you're getting married here in a couple months, you're looking to buy a house. What other big plans do you have in your vision board for the next year?
Right. So within the next year, that's a great question. I want to obviously buy the house. After that, the next step is to buy more houses, right? So I want to continue to get into real estate. The Amazon FBA thing that I'm really hoping pans out and works for me. Even if this, particular item I'm trying to sell doesn't work, I'm going to continue to try to find different items, different products, and continue to create different lines because it's so scalable. I haven't really done it yet, and I already love it. So continuing to grow the Amazon brands, continuing to work in real estate, kind of more get into real estate, right? I'm only dipping my toes in right now. And having people that surround you, like Sean, who's already a couple steps ahead of me there, it's always great to have resources that you can talk to and get some more information from. So while I'm, trying to continue to, expand my financial independence, another big step is getting married and traveling a little bit, right? So we've done some videos on our credit cards. I just got approved for a Chase Sapphire Reserve, a travel card, which I plan on using very heavily, using the points to travel with my future wife and celebrate, our successes a little bit. So I know Gary Vee said that, his one regret is that he celebrated his successes a little more. So I'm looking to keep the balance, of grinding, getting into real estate, getting into my different businesses, my different jobs, different sources of income, and, living life and celebrating my successes, spending some time with my current fiance and future wife.
Absolutely. And balance is key. And the other thing too is you're not going to get the time back. So you have to be very intentional about how you spend that time. And relationships, both your romantic relationships along with your close friendships, are the most important relationships that you're going to have in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure you give them the proper intent or attention is a top tier priority.
Right.
So going into kind of the second question here, what is your favorite book that you've ever read that you recommend that anyone getting started on their financial journey needs to read?
That's a great question. So to kind of follow up on the first question, no one on their deathbed ever said, they wish they work more, right? It's, probably something along the lines of spend more time with family and friends, right? So I like to kind of look forward and, use that vision to, kind of motivate me to do what I'm doing today. To get on to the second question, the book Millionaire Next Door. I know it's a super common one, but that was recommended to me actually by my father-in-law, future father-in-law, and that was the first financial book really that I read. I read that one actually even before I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and the Millionaire Next Door was an absolute 180 in my mindset, right? It showed that not only can you make a lot of money and be rich, you can make a lot of money and be poor, right? You can be an under accumulator of wealth. You can make a lot of money and you can spend a lot of money. And so to summarize kind of the gist of the book, but not to spoil it, it's a study done on a bunch of people who make a lot of money. And it shows, that they don't always come from kind of the same backgrounds. They don't always come from high income jobs. But it's a fantastic book. I recommend it to everyone. And it's a real eye opener and can show you that, you're not out of position to be a millionaire or make a lot of money.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know Josh just dropped a video on that on social media. And all of us have read that book and can attest that it's a mindset changing and even a life changing read. So I rank that book up very high in my list, my top list of books as well. So I couldn't agree more, Zach. So last question, where can everybody find you on social media, and how can they get connected with you?
So on social media, I'm Zowen22 on both Instagram and LinkedIn. You can also find me on the FLI.net, our website, and kind of that same tag, Zowen22, everywhere else. What about you, Yinka?
Yeah, no, you can find me on LinkedIn at Oleinka Famdu. I know my O has a little dot on there under it, and people tell me that's hard to find, but that's my real name, so I like to keep it true. But if you look up Famdu, you'll see my photo. But again, also too, if you go to our website, thefli.net, you'll see the little LinkedIn tag there. How about you, Sean?
Find me at Sean Lacey 7 on Instagram and Twitter, Sean Lacey on LinkedIn, and also through posting videos on the Financial Literacy Institute Instagram, blog posts, podcast episodes, videos on thefli.net, along with my social links on there. And then Josh, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn at Josh Bisesi. That's Bisesi. Gets pronounced wrong a lot, but it's all good. Same thing goes for Instagram. It's Josh_Bisesi, and catch me on FLI more often nowadays. Sean, thanks for the plug for that Millionaire Next Door. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I hope to do more and hope to inspire a lot of other people like Zach was inspired to really get involved and get down and dirty with their own finances and change their life in doing so.
Beautiful, Josh. And I think Josh just kicked off the last words. So Yinka, do you have any last words?
Hey, you know what? I'm just looking forward to our future podcast because I'm not going to say who, but I just bagged a pretty nasty podcast guest, which will come maybe in October or September. We'll see. But we have some good guests up in the line. So just all of our listeners, be prepared for that heat.
Yep, exactly.
Absolutely.
This
And
is
Zach,
the
your last
first.
words?
Yeah, this is the first of 3 videos in this series, right? So we're going to kind of do this same thing with both Sean and Yinka, where we get into kind of their origin stories and how they got into finances, the how, where, when, and who of it. So stay tuned for those. Stay tuned for some more awesome podcast guests. And Sean, to you.
Absolutely. And thank you, Zach. We appreciate you telling the life story here and providing us insight. A phenomenal episode. I think even I learned stuff. I guarantee you, Yinka and Josh will learn stuff. So thank you for taking the time to do this. We appreciate everyone that's listening to this episode. Make sure to check out more of the content, all of our tools up on the website, and even plug into our coaching sessions that are going to be coming out here soon. So we got a lot in the works. FLI continues to grow. We continue to bring on great people like Josh and Tyrone, who wasn't able to be with us today, but you'll see his face on social media. You'll see him on more podcast episodes. So a lot of great things in the works. So once again, thank you guys for listening. Thank you all for joining us. And Zach, great episode. This has been On the Fly.